The jungle was alive. Strange purple vines hung from the black trees. Every branch glowed faintly, and strange creatures with claws and many eyes crawled in the shadows. The air was heavy, thick with mist, and every step cracked twigs or squished. Mud. Aaron Cole ran. His boots slipped on the wet ground. His breath came out in short, hard bursts. His shirt was torn, his arm was bleeding, but his eyes were sharp and focused. Behind him, deep in the jungle, he heard it, the hunters. A low growl rolled through the trees. Then came the metallic clicking of their weapons. Then laughter. "They are playing with me," Aaron muttered to himself. "They think this is a game." He stumbled behind a thick tree and crouched low. The glowing bark painted his face in eerie green light. He could feel the ground shake, heavy footsteps. Getting closer, he looked up and saw them, the Vrilok. They were enormous, at least 8 feet tall, covered in spiked black armor. Their faces were hidden behind bone-white masks, and each one carried a blade as long as Aaron's entire body. One of them leaned close to the tree where he hid. "Human," it hissed, voice deep and mocking. "Why run? It is better if you surrender. Makes it easier for you, quick." Aaron stayed quiet, holding his breath. Another one laughed. "Run more, it is fun when they run." The 2 hunters moved past him, scanning the trees. Aaron's hand slowly reached down to his boot. He pulled out a small black blade. He whispered, "You have no idea what you're hunting." Suddenly, the ground to his left exploded. A hunter swung its blade through the tree, cutting it in half. The tree crashed down as splinters flew. "There!" One shouted. Aaron sprinted again, ducking and weaving between the glowing trees. He didn't look back. He knew they were faster than him. He could hear their laughter following him. Closer and closer. Soon, the jungle thinned, and he reached a clearing where a large metal ship hovered, its engines rumbling. A glowing cage waited for him. The hunters caught him there. 2 massive claws grabbed his arms, lifting him off the ground. "Enough running," one growled. "Prey belongs in cage now." They threw him into the cage, and a wall of light snapped into place. Inside, Aaron sat silently, breathing heavily. His eyes stared straight at the hunters. One of them stepped closer, tapping on the cage wall. "You are weak, soft, like all your kind." Aaron didn't reply. The hunter leaned closer, its mask inches from the barrier. "We hunt humans for sport." "And you? You are nothing but meat." Aaron smiled faintly. The hunter recoiled. "Why smile?" Aaron whispered, "Because you have no idea what you've just put in a cage." The hunter snarled and walked away. Time passed. The ship hummed around him as it lifted into the sky, leaving the strange jungle below. The hunters celebrated, slamming drinks on metal tables, laughing about how easy it was to catch a human. Aaron just sat there, staring at the floor. But something began to change. At first, it was subtle, a low hum that only he seemed to notice. Then whispers filled the air. The lights on the ship flickered. One hunter paused, looking around. "Did you hear that?" "Hear what?" Another asked. Annoyed, a shadow moved at the edge of the room. Then silence. One of the hunters went to check the far corner. "Probably." "Nothing," it muttered. But it didn't come back. The others waited, confused. Then there was a scream. Everyone jumped. What was that? 2 hunters ran to check. Moments later, another scream, louder, closer. And then silence again. The hunters looked at each other now, nervous. One of them glanced at the cage and froze. Aaron was no longer sitting. He was standing and smiling. "One hunter shouted. "How did he get out?" But when they looked closely, the cage was still glowing. Aaron stood inside it, yet somehow different. His eyes glowed faintly blue. His breath came slow and steady. The floor under his feet began to crack. With a sudden sharp sound, the cage wall shattered like glass. Aaron stepped out. The hunters raised their weapons, shouting, "Stay where you are." Aaron didn't listen. He moved fast, too fast for their eyes to follow. In 1 second, he was standing in front of the nearest hunter. With one smooth motion, he grabbed the hunter's own blade and slammed it into its chest. The others opened fire, but Aaron rolled aside, leaping into the shadows. One by one, the hunters fell, each strike silent, efficient. The ship's lights flickered. Alarms blared. The captain, taller and broader than the rest, stormed into the room. "What is happening here?" It roared. Aaron emerged from the darkness, holding a hunter's blade. "You wanted to hunt me," he said softly. "Now it's your turn." The captain raised its weapon, but before it could strike, Aaron vanished. A moment later, the captain's weapon clattered to the floor, its owner lying motionless beside it. The remaining hunters panicked, firing wildly. But Aaron was already at the control panel. He pressed a few buttons, locking all doors and sealing them inside. Through the speakers, his calm voice filled the room. "You came to my world. You called me prey. You laughed at me." He stepped into the center of the room, bathed in red warning lights. "But you forgot the first rule of hunting." The hunters froze, staring at him, fear written on their masked faces. Aaron tilted his head, smiling faintly. "Sometimes," he continued, "the prey fights back." Suddenly, the ship's gravity fluctuated. Hunters stumbled as the floor tilted and sparks rained from the ceiling. Aaron moved like a shadow, cutting through them one by one, his blade flashing blue in the dark. The last hunter fell to its knees, dropping its weapon. "Mercy," it begged in a whisper. "Please." Aaron leaned close, his voice low. "Did you show mercy when you hunted us?" He left the hunter there. Walking to the captain's chair, the ship's controls glowed under his fingers. He set a course straight for a nearby black hole. The remaining hunters screamed in terror as the ship lurched forward, its engines roaring. Aaron walked to an escape pod and paused at the door. He turned back to the frightened hunters one last time. "Let this be a lesson," he said, his voice cold. "Humans are not prey. We are your nightmare." He pressed the button and the pod shot away from the doomed ship. Through the small window of the pod, he watched as the hunter's ship was pulled into the black hole, vanishing into the darkness. Aaron leaned back in his seat, closing his eyes for a moment. When he opened them again, they still glowed faintly blue. He activated the pod's communication system, sending a signal across the stars. On countless alien worlds, leaders and generals turned toward their screens as a human face appeared. Aaron's face. He spoke just 2 words, "Come hunt." And then the screen went black. Far away, in the deep of space, Aaron's pod drifted silently toward Earth. But every corner of the galaxy now whispered his name with fear. The human who was once prey had become their worst nightmare. The cage was cold and bright. Aaron sat on the hard metal floor, his back against the glowing energy wall. The light hummed and flickered softly, bathing him in pale blue. He stared ahead, calm, though his arms still hurt from the fight. His shirt was torn, his boots were muddy, and a thin line of blood ran down his cheek. But his eyes stayed sharp. Across from him, 3 Vrelok guards watched silently. Their black armor gleamed in the faint light. One of them spoke. "This one is different. He does not cry, does not beg." Another laughed. "They all look tough at first, but they break. All prey breaks in the end." Aaron smiled faintly, just enough for them to notice. The tallest guard walked closer to the cage and tapped the energy wall with one claw. Sparks danced where he touched it. "Why smile, human?" The guard hissed. Aaron didn't answer right away. He tilted his head, studying the alien's mask. Then he said softly, "Because you think this cage can hold me." The guard chuckled. A deep, rumbling sound. "It has held stronger creatures than you, beasts from burning worlds, monsters from black suns, and you are nothing." Aaron leaned back against the wall. "You keep telling yourself that." The guard snarled but stepped away, muttering something in his alien language. Time passed. The ship rumbled as it moved through space, its engines like a distant heartbeat. The guards talked quietly among themselves, throwing glances at Aaron now and then. One of them finally asked, "Why was he alone? Why no other humans with him?" The tallest one answered, "Doesn't matter. He will fetch a good price at the arena. Maybe even a private hunt if the lords want sport." Aaron closed his eyes and listened. Every word they said only confirmed what he already knew. They thought he was harmless. He opened his eyes again and whispered under his breath, "Keep thinking that." Hours passed. More Vrelok soldiers came and went, some stopping to look at him, others ignoring him completely. The room felt colder now. The lights flickered more often, but the guards didn't seem to notice. Then came the whispers. At first faint, like wind through cracks in the walls. One of the younger guards paused, looking around. "Did you hear that?" "Hear what?" Another replied, annoyed. "That sound, like voices. You imagine things," the tall one growled. "Focus on the prisoner." But the whispers grew louder. One by one, the guards shifted uncomfortably. The lights dimmed. Then a loud snap echoed through the room. Everyone froze. One guard stood slowly, staring at the ceiling. A dark crack had appeared above them, running along the metal. "That's not possible," the tall guard said quietly. Aaron tilted his head, still sitting calmly. The crack spread wider. Dust rained down. The youngest guard whispered, "Something is wrong." Aaron spoke, his voice calm but chilling. "You locked me in a cage, but the cage isn't for me. It's for you." The tall guard spun toward him. "Silence, pray." Aaron's smile deepened. "You're already inside." Before the tall guard could speak, a shadow moved across the ceiling. The youngest guard screamed as something yanked him upward into the dark crack. His weapon clattered to the floor. The remaining guards raised their weapons, shouting and backing away. "What is that?" Another whisper cut through the noise. This time it spoke in their language, words they all understood. "Run." The guards froze. Aaron stood now, stepping closer to the energy wall. He placed his hand on it. The light sparked and fizzled. One guard shouted, "No! Stay back!" But with a sudden flash, the energy wall shattered into pieces, dissolving into nothing. Aaron stepped out. The guards opened fire, but the shots missed as he moved like a blur, ducking and twisting through the beams of light. He reached the nearest guard, grabbed his weapon, and in one clean motion, knocked him to the ground. The others backed away, weapons shaking in their hands. Aaron turned slowly, eyes glowing faintly blue now. "You think you're hunters," he said softly, "but you've been trapped since you caught me." The tall guard barked an order. "Seal the doors. Call reinforcements." But the doors refused to close. The panel sparked and died. Then all at once, the lights went out completely. Darkness swallowed the room. Only the faint glow of Aaron's eyes and the humming of the ship remained in the dark. Something moved. The sound of claws scraping metal. The sharp, sudden cries of guards disappearing one by one. Aaron's voice floated through the blackness. "You came to my world. You thought you could hunt humans. You thought we were weak." A single light flickered back on, revealing Aaron, standing alone now, surrounded by the bodies of the guards. The tall one lay at his feet, still alive but breathing hard, mask cracked. Aaron crouched beside him. "Do you know what's worse than being prey?" Aaron asked quietly. The guard wheezed, "What? Being prey?" "And realizing you caught something worse than yourself." The guard groaned, closing his eyes. Aaron stood, turning to the control panel. His fingers danced over the alien keys, unlocking the ship's systems. He tapped into the cameras, all over the ship. Other hunters panicked, running through corridors, shooting at shadows that didn't exist. Aaron spoke through the intercom, his voice echoing everywhere. "You wanted sport? You wanted to hunt? Then keep running." I'll give you a head start. He pressed another button, cutting gravity throughout the ship. The hunters floated helplessly as he moved silently, striking them down one after another, the halls filled with screams, then silenced out at last. Only Aaron remained standing in the main chamber. He picked up one of the alien blades and examined it, testing its weight. Then he slashed through the captain's chair and sat down. The controls glowed under his hands. A hologram appeared, a map of the stars. He set a new course for the ship, straight toward an asteroid field. Aaron glanced around. The room, now littered with bodies. For a moment, everything was quiet. He spoke softly, more to himself than anyone else. No cage can hold me. He stood and walked toward the escape pods. Behind him, the ship groaned and shook, heading toward its doom. Aaron entered a pod and closed the hatch. As the pod launched into space, he looked back through the small window. The hunter's ship drifted toward the waiting asteroids. One by one, the rocks collided with the massive hull, tearing it apart. Aaron sat back in his seat, breathing deeply. When he opened his eyes again, they still glowed faintly blue. He activated the pod's transmitter, sending a new message into the galaxy. On distant planets, screens came to life as his face appeared. "This is your warning," he said simply. "You locked me in a cage. You thought I was prey. But humans, we don't stay in cages." His eyes narrowed. "We turned them inside out." The message cut off, leaving a black screen and silence. Aaron leaned back in the pod, closing his eyes as the stars passed by outside. In the darkness of space, the whispers returned, quiet but clear. They spoke one word: nightmare. Aaron smiled, faintly, his voice barely above a whisper. "That's right," he said. "Your nightmare has just begun." The pod continued drifting into the unknown, leaving the shattered ship and its hunters behind. But across the galaxy, every world that heard his message now feared the name of the human they once thought was only prey. The ship was quiet now, but not peaceful. Dark corridors stretched in every direction, lit only by flickering red emergency lights. Shadows danced on the walls as if alive. The air smelled of burnt metal and fear. Aaron moved slowly, his boots making no sound. His blade glimmered faintly in his hand, dark with blood. His eyes glowed a soft cold blue. Somewhere ahead, the hunters were regrouping. He could hear them: low growls, armor scraping, weapons clicking into place. They thought they still had a chance. Aaron knew better. He stopped at the edge of a large doorway. Beyond it lay a wide chamber, once a gathering hall. Now it was a battlefield. Inside, 7 Vrlock warriors waited, their backs to him. Their leader barked orders in a harsh alien tongue. "Find him," the leader roared. "He bleeds, he hides. He dies like prey," another answered, his voice nervous. "But he killed the guards. He broke the cage. This is no ordinary prey." A heavy fist slammed into the speaker's chest, knocking him to the floor. The leader hissed, "We are hunters. We are Vrlock. He cannot win." Aaron smiled faintly from the shadows. They still didn't understand. He stepped into the room. One of the hunters turned, sensing something, and froze. "There," the hunter whispered. All 7 turned to face him. Now their weapons glowed hot in their hands. Aaron stood calm, his blade at his side. The leader sneered behind his mask. "You think you scare us, human? You are just flesh and bone. You bleed. You die." Aaron's gaze swept the room, steady and cold. "You're right," he said softly. "I do bleed, but so do you." The hunters charged all at once. Aaron moved. The first strike came from his right. A massive blade swung toward his head. He ducked, twisting under it, and drove his own blade upward into the hunter's chest. The alien gasped and stumbled back, clutching at the wound. Aaron didn't stop. He spun into the next attacker, disarming him with a swift kick and sending him crashing into the wall. 2 more came at him from both sides. Aaron leapt forward, rolled, and stabbed low, cutting through the armor of one. Then he swung his blade behind him, catching the other in the leg. The room erupted in chaos, weapons clashing, sparks flying, roars and shouts echoing off the walls. But Aaron moved like water, slipping between strikes, cutting with precision. One by one, the hunters fell. When only the leader remained, he backed toward the far wall, breathing heavily. Aaron approached slowly, his blade dripping. The leader raised his weapon, shaking now. "You are no human," he hissed. Aaron tilted his head. "I'm exactly what you made me," he replied. The leader roared and swung wildly. Aaron sidestepped, grabbed the alien's arm, and slammed him to the floor. The leader struggled, but Aaron pressed the blade to his throat. "Go on," the leader growled. "Finish it." Aaron's eyes narrowed. "Not yet," he said. He leaned closer, his voice low. "You need to carry a message. Tell the others what happened here. Tell them I am not prey." Then he stood and kicked the leader's weapon away. The leader scrambled to his feet, clutching his neck. He stumbled toward the exit, looking back once before disappearing into the shadows. Aaron turned to the fallen hunters, their armor cracked and smoking. He wiped his blade clean on one of their cloaks and sheathed it. Above him, the ship groaned. As it changed course, the engine struggling, he moved to the control panel at the far end of the chamber. His fingers danced over the alien keys, unlocking doors, opening pathways. He could hear distant footsteps, now more hunters coming. Good. He wanted them to come. He spoke into the ship's intercom, his voice calm, steady. "You call yourselves hunters, but you don't even know what real hunting is. You stalk the weak, you cage the desperate. That's not hunting. That's cowardice." He paused, letting his words echo through the halls. "Come find me. Let's see who bleeds next." He shut off the intercom and disappeared into the dark. Farther down the ship, the leader stumbled into another chamber. Blood dripped from his hands. His breathing was ragged. Other hunters rushed to him. "What happened? Where are the others?" The leader sank to his knees. "They're gone," he whispered. "What do you mean gone?" The leader's mask cracked as he pulled it off, revealing wide, terrified eyes. He killed them, all of them. I watched him move. He's not human." The others exchanged nervous glances. One of them asked, "Then what is he?" The leader swallowed hard. "The first kill," he said quietly. "He's the first of many." Before they could respond, the lights in the chamber flickered and died. In the silence that followed, only one sound remained. Footsteps. Soft, steady, getting closer. One of the hunters raised his weapon. "Show yourself." A faint voice answered from the dark. "You asked what I am?" The hunters froze. Aaron stepped into the dim light, his blade at his side, eyes glowing brighter now. "I'm your lesson," he said. The hunters fired wildly, bolts of light slicing through the air. But Aaron was already moving, weaving between them, striking fast and hard. He disarmed one, then another, sending them crashing into walls. The leader tried to run again, but Aaron caught him by the collar and slammed him against the control panel. The room fell silent, except for the hum of the engines and the heavy breathing of the survivors. Aaron spoke quietly, his voice cutting through the stillness. "You thought you were safe because you were many," he said. His blade glinted in the faint light. "You thought I couldn't fight back because I was alone." He leaned closer, his words a whisper now. "You were wrong." One final strike sent the leader crumpling to the floor. Aaron stood over him for a moment, breathing deeply, then turned away. He walked back to the control panel and began typing. Again. The ship's alarms blared to life, flashing warnings on every screen. An automated voice repeated in the Verloc language. "Collision imminent. Brace for impact." Aaron's fingers flew over the keys, redirecting the ship's path once more, this time straight toward a nearby moon. He activated the escape pods and glanced back at the stunned hunters. "Run," he said simply. They didn't. Hesitate. One by one, they scrambled into the pods and launched away from the doomed ship. Aaron watched them go, his expression calm, almost sad. When the last pod disappeared into space, he sat down in the captain's chair. Through the window, the moon loomed larger and larger, its surface rough and cold. Aaron leaned back, closing his eyes for a moment. Then he stood and walked to the final escape pod. Before leaving, he looked around the empty chamber one last time. "You wanted to see a hunt," he said quietly. His eyes glowed brighter now, almost white. "Now you'll remember the first kill." The pod launched just as the ship slammed into the moon, breaking apart in a blinding flash. From the safety of the pod, Aaron watched the explosion fade into silence. He sat still, staring into the stars ahead. Somewhere out there, others were watching, others who thought humans were prey. He whispered softly to himself, "Let them come." Then he closed his eyes, letting the quiet of space wrap around him, already planning his next move. ChatGPT said, the air inside the escape pod was tight and still. Aaron sat alone, his hands resting lightly on the control panel. Outside, stars moved past in silent streaks. The pod hummed quietly, a tiny ship in the vastness of space. Aaron's eyes glowed faintly blue as he watched the last traces of the destroyed Vreelock ship disappear behind him. The explosion had been loud enough to shake the pod, but now only silence filled the dark void. Suddenly, a soft beep interrupted the quiet. The pod's communication system lit up. Aaron leaned forward and pressed a button. A cracked and worried voice came through the speaker. "Human. This is Captain Rill of the Star Coalition." "What happened? Your ship was destroyed. Are you alive?" Aaron smiled faintly. "I'm alive, but they won't forget me." "How? What do you mean?" Aaron glanced at the control panel. "They hunted me. Thought I was weak. I was prey." There was a long silence. Then the captain spoke again. "You survived? Against the Vreelock?" "That's impossible." Aaron nodded, though the captain could not see him. "Impossible for most. Not for me." The captain hesitated. "You must come home. We need to warn Earth. They will send help." Aaron's smile faded. "There's no time. They are coming. Faster than anyone knows." The captain's voice dropped. "We will be ready." Aaron ended the transmission and leaned back. His mind was already moving, planning. Suddenly, alarms blared on the pod's panel. "Warning, incoming vessel detected," a cold mechanical voice announced. Aaron's eyes narrowed. He stood and moved to the window. A sleek ship, dark and fast, was heading straight for him. "Vreelock," Aaron said quietly. He gripped the controls tightly. The pod's engines flared. "Time to run," he muttered. The pod shot forward, weaving between stars. The pursuing ship fired bright blasts. Aaron dodged left, then right, using every trick he had learned. The Vreelock ship matched him, relentless. Suddenly, Aaron hit a control and released a cloud of smoke behind him. The pursuer slowed, confused. Aaron pushed harder. He aimed for a nearby asteroid belt. The pod lurched as it dove toward the rocky field. The Vreelock ship followed, firing. Wildly, rocks exploded in bursts of light. Aaron's heart pounded. He dodged massive stones, barely missing a collision. The Vreelock ship wasn't so lucky. A large rock smashed into its side, tearing a wing. The pursuer screamed in anger and began to lose speed. Aaron smiled again. "Catch me if you can." Suddenly, the pod's screen flashed red. "Alert! System malfunction in life support." Aaron's smile faded. He worked quickly, pressing buttons, running diagnostics. The life support stabilized, but barely. Aaron leaned back, breathing hard. He knew this was just the beginning. Behind him, the damaged Vreelock ship limped away, disappearing into the darkness. Aaron relaxed, but only for a moment. His cum beeped again. This time, a new voice came through, calm, clear, and cold. "This is Commander Vesh. You are not welcome in this sector, human." Aaron's eyes narrowed. "I'm not running anymore." Vesh's voice hardened. "You will surrender or be destroyed." Aaron stood up, gripping the controls. "You want a fight?" he asked softly. "Prepare yourself." The pod's engines flared as it turned toward the approaching warship. Stars blurred as two ships raced toward a deadly meeting. The battle was about to begin. The blackness of space was quiet, but Aaron's mind was loud. He stared at the giant warship ahead of him, its sleek surface glowing with alien symbols. It was at least 10 times bigger than his escape pod. Its cannons moved slowly already. Aimed at him, he took a deep breath and whispered to himself, "You wanted me. Here I am." The cold, sharp voice of Commander Vesh came again through the pod speaker. "Human, you cannot win. You are outnumbered and outgunned. Surrender, and we will make your end quick." Aaron pressed the button to reply. His voice was low and calm. "You talk too much." There was silence on the other end. Then Vesh's voice dropped to a growl. "Very well, destroy him." The warship's cannons lit up. Aaron closed his eyes for just a moment, centering himself. Then he slammed his hand on the pod's panel. The pod jerked forward, engines roaring louder than they should have been capable of. Blasts from the warship streaked past him, missing by inches. He dodged left, then down, then rolled the pod completely. Around a beam of red light that cut through an asteroid behind him, the commander's voice snapped through the speaker again. "Impossible. A pod cannot move like that." Aaron smiled faintly. "You haven't seen anything yet." His fingers moved quickly over the controls. He twisted the pod's engines until they screamed in protest, pushing it beyond its limits. The warship fired. Again and again, but the pod danced to the shots, spinning and diving with perfect precision. One of the blasts struck close enough to shake the pod violently. Sparks flew from the ceiling and warning lights flashed. Aaron muttered, "Not yet, not yet." Suddenly, he dove straight toward the warship, weaving through its barrage of fire. Inside the warship, alarms blared. "Commander, he's heading right for us," shouted one of the officers. "Destroy him," Vesh roared. "No mistakes." But Aaron was too fast. At the last second, he hit a hidden switch on the pod's console. The pod shot forward in a sudden burst, smashing into the side of the massive ship, but it didn't explode. Instead, claws extended from the pod's hull and dug into the warship's skin. With a hiss, the pod latched on like an insect. Aaron stood and picked up his blade. The pod's door slid open. He stepped out into the belly of the beast. Inside the warship, the walls were dark and smooth, glowing faintly blue. Alarms screamed. Vrelok soldiers ran toward him, weapons raised. Aaron walked forward slowly, his blade at his side. The first 2 soldiers charged him. He moved faster than they could see, cutting both down in a single motion. He kept walking. More came. Shots of red light sizzled past him, but he spun and rolled through them, cutting through each attacker without stopping. One of the soldiers backed away, shouting, He's inside the ship." Aaron spoke loud enough for all to hear. "You wanted a nightmare? You got one." He reached the main corridor. Vrelok soldiers filled the hall, shoulder to shoulder, blocking his path. Their weapons glowed bright, ready to fire. At the far end stood Commander Vesh, tall, sharp, and still calm, though his mask hid his face. "You made it this far," Vesh called out. "But this is the end." Aaron tilted his head, watching. "Him. For you," he said. Vesh raised a clawed hand. "Fire." The soldiers unleashed a storm of energy. The blasts filled the hall with blinding light and deafening noise. When the smoke cleared, they stared. Aaron still stood, the walls around him were scorched. The floor was cracked, but he was unharmed. His eyes glowed brighter now, white, blue, and fierce. "Your weapons don't scare me," he said softly. He took a step forward. Then another. Panic rippled through the soldiers. Some fired again wildly. Others backed away. Aaron moved faster. His blade flashed. He struck one soldier, then another, cutting through their armor like paper. He was a shadow, a ghost in the storm of their fire. Vesh growled and drew his own blade, longer and darker than the others. "Enough games," he shouted. Aaron smiled. "Faintly, I agree." They clashed in the middle of the corridor. Vesh swung first, a brutal overhead strike. Aaron dodged, striking low. Sparks flew as their blades collided again and again. The ship shook around them. Walls cracked. Lights shattered. Aaron ducked under another strike, rolled, and slashed across Vesh's chest. Vesh stumbled back, growling in pain. He rasped. Aaron stood over him, his blade raised. "You should have stayed in the shadows," Aaron said. With a final clean strike, Vesh fell. The remaining soldiers froze. Some dropped their weapons. Aaron turned to them, his gaze cold and bright. "You tell them," he said quietly. "You tell everyone what you saw here." One by one, the soldiers fled, running down the dark corridors. Aaron sheathed his blade and moved to the control room. He stood at the captain's chair, hands resting on the panel. The ship's systems glowed under his touch. He spoke into the intercom, his voice echoing through every corner of the ship. "I warned you. I told you what happens when you hunt humans. But you didn't listen." He pressed a button, and all the ship's lights turned red. "This is what a nightmare looks like." He typed a series of commands, locking the warship's course. Through the windows, the stars shifted. Ahead lay a swirling storm of asteroids and ice, a deadly field. No ship could survive. Aaron stood calmly as the warship turned toward it. He activated the escape pods for the remaining crew. "Run," he said into the intercom, "if you can." Soldiers scrambled to the pods, launching away from the doomed ship. Aaron watched them go, silent. When the last pod left, he stood alone on the bridge. The warship groaned and creaked as it sped toward the deadly field. Aaron whispered to himself, "No more cages. No more running." At the last second, he walked to the final escape pod and climbed inside. The pod launched just as the massive ship crashed into the storm, breaking apart under the crushing force of colliding rocks and ice. From his pod, Aaron watched it all. The once mighty warship, a symbol of Vrylak power, was gone. He leaned back in his seat, closing his eyes, but then his cum beeped. He opened his eyes and pressed the button. A faint voice came through, weak, afraid. You're not human. You're a demon." Aaron stared at the stars ahead. "No," he replied quietly. "I'm the nightmare you made." The transmission cut off. Aaron sat in silence as the pod drifted deeper into space. And somewhere across the galaxy, the legend of the human who became their nightmare began to spread. The pod drifted silently through space. Stars blinked outside, cold and endless. Aaron sat in the dark cabin, his eyes open but far away. The faint blue glow in them was dimmer now, but still alive. His fingers tapped lightly on the control panel. It was quiet, almost peaceful. But he knew better. Something was waiting. The pod's screen flashed suddenly. A signal came through. Not human, not Vrylak. A strange symbol glowed on the screen, sharp and beautiful, like a crown made of light. Aaron studied it, his jaw tightening. So she finally decided to come. A mechanical voice filled the cabin. Docking sequence initiated. Destination, Throne World. Aaron leaned back, whispering to himself, "Let's meet the Queen." The pod changed course, engines humming louder, pulling him toward a glowing planet ahead. It hung in the void like a jewel, golden and alive. Surrounded by strange rings of silver mist. As the pod entered its atmosphere, the sky shimmered with soft light. Below, vast spires of black and gold rose from the ground. Between them, rivers of molten glass flowed, and shadows moved creatures large and small, all bowing toward the great palace at the center. The pod landed on a high platform. The door hissed open. Aaron stepped out. The air was warm, heavy, with a faint scent of flowers and smoke. 2 guards waited for him. They were tall, their armor smooth and silver, their faces hidden behind masks shaped like serpents. One of them spoke, his voice low but clear. "The queen waits for you, human. Do not keep her waiting." Aaron gave a small smile. "Wouldn't dream of it." They led him down a long corridor. The walls were alive with moving patterns of light, shifting into scenes of battles, hunts, and strange ceremonies. Silent figures stood along the way, watching him with dark, glowing eyes. Finally, they came to a massive door of black glass. It opened soundlessly. The throne room was enormous, its ceiling lost in shadows. A river of liquid gold flowed down. The center, flanked by stairs leading to a raised platform, and there she sat, the queen. Her throne was carved from some dark crystal, and she herself glowed faintly in the dim light. She was tall and slender, her skin pale like moonlight, her hair a cascade of silver. A crown of jagged light floated above her head. Her eyes, deep and endless, watched him with quiet amusement. When she spoke, her voice filled the whole room, soft yet impossible to ignore. "So the human nightmare arrives at last." Aaron stopped at the base of the stairs. "You called," he said. "Here I am." The queen tilted her head, studying him. "You've caused quite a stir," she said lightly. "Ships burned, hunters slaughtered. Even the great commander Vesh lies dead. I should be angry, yet," she smiled faintly, "I find myself curious instead." Aaron's gaze didn't waver. "You wanted me here," he said. "What do you want?" The queen stood slowly, descending the stairs like liquid shadow. "To see for myself what kind of creature you truly are," she murmured. "The Vrilok call you prey, yet you have become their nightmare." She circled him now, her long fingers almost brushing his shoulder. "They say you are unstoppable, that you hunt the hunters, that you cannot die." Aaron's lips curled into the smallest of smiles. "They say a lot of things," he replied. Queen chuckled softly, though her eyes never lost their sharpness. "And what do you say, human?" Aaron met her gaze. "I say you've wasted enough of my time. If you're here to kill me, get on with it. If not, let me go." The queen laughed, a low musical sound that sent chills through the room. "Kill you?" she said. "Oh no. I have no wish to kill you, not yet." Aaron raised an eyebrow. "What do you want then?" She leaned closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. "I want to make you an offer." Aaron said nothing. She straightened and began to walk slowly back to her throne. "I rule this galaxy," she said. "Every hunter, every soldier, every world, they all answer to me. But even a queen needs a weapon." Aaron's eyes narrowed. "You think I'd work for you?" Her smile widened, but it was cold now. "I think you already do," she said softly. Aaron's jaw tightened. "I'm nobody's weapon." The queen's eyes flashed. "You are exactly a weapon," she hissed. "You kill, you destroy, you bring fear. Why not do it for someone who can give you something in return?" Aaron's voice was quiet, but sharp. "And what could you possibly give me?" The queen stopped, turning her full gaze on him. "Everything," she said simply. The word hung in the air like a blade. Aaron's mind worked quickly. He could see the trap in her offer. She wanted him leashed, but he also knew she was dangerous, more dangerous than anything he'd faced yet. If he refused her outright, she might decide to end him here. If he accepted, he smiled faintly. "I'll think about it," he said. The queen's laugh returned, softer this time. "Good," she said. "That is all I ask." She raised her hand, and the guards appeared at his sides. "Take him to the guest chambers," she commanded. "Let him rest. Tomorrow we will talk again." Aaron inclined his head, just slightly, as he was led away. The queen called after him. "And human?" He paused, looking back. "Do not try to run. There is nowhere to hide from me." Aaron smiled, though his eyes stayed cold. "Everyone says that," he said. The queen's smile lingered as he vanished through the doors. Later that night, Aaron sat alone in his chamber. The walls shimmered with faint, pulsing light. The bed was soft, the air warm, but he didn't sleep. Instead, he sat by the window, staring out at the strange city below. A faint whisper touched his mind. "You cannot escape her." Aaron closed his eyes. "I don't plan to," he murmured. His fingers tightened around the hilt of his blade. "She thinks she's the hunter," he whispered to himself. "But she has no idea." The blue glow in his eyes brightened slightly as he stared into the distance. Tomorrow, the queen would expect his answer, but Aaron already knew what he had to do. She had called him a nightmare, and now he would show her just how true that was. The city slept beneath a sky full of silver clouds. Rivers of molten glass glowed faintly, and black spires reached upward like claws. Aaron stood by the window in his chamber, staring down at it all. The queen thought she owned him now. Thought she'd tamed the nightmare. She couldn't have been more wrong. His blade lay on the table, quiet and waiting. His fingers brushed over it, and the faint blue light in his eyes brightened. He whispered to himself, "Tonight ends it." The door behind him opened with a soft hiss. 2 guards entered, their serpent masks gleaming. "The queen commands your presence," one said. Aaron turned slowly. "Of course," he replied. They led him through the shimmering halls of the palace. The walls seemed to watch him, alive with moving shadows. Silent figures bowed as he passed, but he ignored them all. At the great throne room, the doors opened. Without a sound, she was waiting for him. The queen sat tall on her crystal throne, her silver hair falling over her shoulders like liquid light. Her eyes glowed softly as she smiled. "You kept me waiting," she said lightly. Aaron stood at the base of the stairs, calm. "Had to think about your offer," he said. Her smile widened. "And? Have you decided?" Aaron tilted his head. "Yes," he said softly. The queen leaned forward, her sharp gaze narrowing. "And?" She pressed. Aaron met her eyes. "I decide." "No," he said. The silence that followed was sharp, heavy. Her smile vanished. "No?" she repeated, her voice dropping low. Aaron stepped closer, his eyes bright now. "I don't bow," he said simply. Queen rose slowly, her crown of light glowing brighter, her figure towering as shadows pooled at her feet. "You dare defy me?" she hissed. Aaron's hand rested lightly on his blade. "I'm not your weapon," he said. "I'm your nightmare." Her laugh was cold, echoing through the room. "Very well," she said softly. "Then die as one." The shadows on the walls came alive, rising into the shapes of massive beasts, dark and twisted, their glowing eyes fixed on him. The guards around the room raised their weapons. Aaron drew his blade. The queen whispered, "Crush him." The first shadow beast lunged. Aaron rolled to the side, cutting through its smoky form with a clean slash. It howled and dissolved into mist. The next one struck from behind, but Aaron turned and drove his blade upward, splitting it apart. Guards charged from both sides. Blasts of energy lit the air, but Aaron moved faster, weaving, striking, cutting them down one by one. The throne room shook with the sounds of battle. The queen watched from her throne, her eyes blazing, her fingers gripping the arms of her chair. "You are strong," she said, "but even you cannot fight forever." Aaron moved closer, cutting down the last of the guards. He stood at the foot of the stairs now, breathing hard but steady. Her crown flared brighter, and the air around her shimmered. "I am the queen of this galaxy," she said, her voice filling the hall. "You cannot touch me." Aaron's blade glowed faintly in his hand. "Everyone can fall," he said. She raised her hands, and a storm of light and shadow roared through the room. Aaron charged through it. Her eyes widened as he climbed. The stairs, step by step, his blade cutting through the storm. No! She shouted. He reached the top and stopped just in front of her throne. Her breath came fast now, her calm gone. You don't understand, she said, her voice shaking. I am eternal. Aaron stared at her, his eyes like cold fire. Not anymore. He said. He struck. The room fell silent. Her crown flickered and cracked. Shattering into sparks, she stumbled back, a look of shock and fear on her face. How? She whispered. Aaron stood over her, his blade steady. You called me a nightmare, he said. You were right. With one last strike, she collapsed, her body dissolving into light that faded into nothing. The throne stood empty. The creatures of shadow faded. The guards who remained dropped their weapons and fled. Aaron stood alone in the silent room, his chest rising and falling slowly. He turned and walked down the steps, leaving the throne behind. As he passed through the halls, figures that had once bowed to the queen now fell back in fear. Outside, the city was quiet, the rivers of molten glass stilled. The black spires stopped glowing. Aaron stepped onto the platform where his pod waited. He looked back one last time at the palace. And then he spoke, his voice low but clear. This is how empires fall. He climbed into the pod, and the door hissed shut. The engines flared, and it lifted into the sky. As the golden planet shrank behind him, Aaron closed his eyes, whispering to himself, They'll remember. They'll all remember. The pod drifted into the darkness of space, leaving the broken crown of a fallen queen behind. And somewhere, among the stars, the legend of the human nightmare grew. The pod floated silently through space, its small lights blinking softly against the endless black. Aaron sat inside, still and calm, but his eyes burned with thought. His blade rested on his knees, its faint glow fading now that the queen was gone. For the first time in days, maybe weeks, the galaxy felt quiet. But he knew better. The quiet never lasted. The pod screen flickered to life, breaking the stillness. A signal was coming through. Aaron leaned forward, his hands hovering above the controls. The signal wasn't human. But it wasn't Vrilok either. It carried no threat, no weapons, just a sound, a low, steady tone that rose and fell like a heartbeat. Aaron frowned. He pressed the button to open the channel. A voice spoke, soft but sharp and alien. Human, it said. We have seen what you have done, and we have been waiting. Aaron didn't answer at first. He stared at the speaker, silent. Finally he spoke. Who are you? The voice didn't hesitate. We are the ones who remember, it said. We are the ones who watched her rise. And now we have watched her fall. Aaron's hand tightened on the blade. What do you want? The voice laughed softly, though it sounded more like wind than joy. Only to talk, it said. Aaron leaned back slightly, his eyes narrowing. I don't talk much, he replied. The voice grew quiet for a moment. Then it spoke again. You don't need to, it said. You've already sent a message. Aaron tilted his head. What message? The voice grew sharper, more certain. That no throne is safe, it said. That no hunter is untouchable. That even prey can bite. Aaron said nothing. The voice continued, almost like a whisper now. Some will fear you. Some will follow you, but all of them will hear you. Aaron's lips curled into the faintest of smiles. That was the point, he said. The voice chuckled faintly. Good, it said. Suddenly, the screen changed. A map appeared, stars scattered across the dark, with bright marks on dozens of worlds. Aaron studied it. What is this? He asked. The voice replied, calm and cold. Every throne that still stands, it said. Every crown still worn. Every hunter who thinks the hunt is theirs. Aaron stared at the map. His hand rested on the blade. And? He said. The voice's answer was soft. And they are waiting for you. For a moment, Aaron closed his eyes, feeling the weight of what lay ahead. Then he opened them. Sharper than ever, the pod's engines flared as he set a course. The first mark on the map glowed brighter. The voice spoke one last time. You started something you cannot stop, it said. Aaron smirked faintly. That's the idea, he replied. As the pod sped through the stars, his mind drifted to the Queen's throne room, the way it had fallen silent when her crown shattered. That silence had been more powerful than any scream, and now it would echo across the galaxy. Somewhere far behind him, deep in the shadows of space, the remnants of her court were already whispering. The human sent a message. One of the whispers reached a distant council chamber, where figures cloaked in darkness sat around a long table. A thin figure leaned forward, its voice shaking. He killed her, it said. He cut her down, another figure hissed. He won't stop. A third slammed its fist on the table. He must be stopped. But a fourth, older and calmer, only shook its head. No, it said. You don't stop a nightmare. You endure it. Back in the pod, Aaron stared at the stars ahead, his voice low but steady. They thought I was prey, he murmured to himself. They thought wrong. He pressed another button, and the pod's cum crackled to life again. This time, it was a human voice, weak but familiar. Aaron, this is Captain Rill. We've been tracking you. Reports are coming in everywhere. Is it true? Did you do it? Aaron didn't answer at first. Then he said quietly, it's done. The captain's breath caught. They're terrified, Rill said. The galaxy is in chaos. You've lit a fire. Aaron's eyes narrowed. Good, he said. The captain's voice dropped to a whisper. What happens now? Aaron stared. At the next bright mark on the map, he leaned back in his seat, his blade resting across his lap. Now, he said, they listen. The pod shot forward, leaving behind the quiet whispers of fear and awe. Across the galaxy, screens lit up in palaces and war rooms alike. A single sentence appeared on every one of them, written in sharp white letters. The nightmare is coming. Aaron closed his eyes as the pod slipped deeper into the void, and somewhere beyond the stars, another throne began to tremble.